What if you haven't actually changed at all? What if everything you're calling change is just awareness sharpening inside you? You wake up some nights feeling different, like something in you shifted, but nothing outside your life has truly moved. That confusion isn't change. It's awareness noticing patterns you used to ignore. You start seeing your reactions, your habits, your thoughts repeating in loops you never questioned before. And suddenly, the life you thought was stable feels unfamiliar, not because it changed, but because you did. So ask yourself, are you really becoming someone new, or are you finally seeing who you've been all along? Because awareness has a way of rewriting your story without changing the facts, only your perception of them, and once you see it, you can't unsee it, leaving you questioning whether the person you were was ever really you at all in the first place. The strange part isn't that your life changes, but that it suddenly feels different while remaining exactly the same. You walk through familiar places, talk to familiar people, repeat familiar routines, and yet something underneath all of it feels subtly off, like the meaning has shifted without permission. It's not the world that changed, it's your perception filtering it differently now, noticing details you once passed over without a second thought. And that creates a quiet disorientation, because your memory of how things used to feel no longer matches how they feel in this moment. You start questioning why conversations feel different, why environments feel heavier or lighter, and why your own reactions seem slightly detached from who you remember being. But nothing external has truly changed in the way you assume, only your awareness has expanded enough to reinterpret what was always there. And once perception shifts like that, even the most ordinary moment starts to feel unfamiliar, as if you are living inside a version of reality you never noticed before. You cannot unsee it, and that quiet shift becomes the moment everything begins to feel newly uncertain yet strangely more awake than ever at this point now. The uncomfortable truth is that awareness doesn't always feel like growth at first. It often feels like anxiety, like your mind has suddenly become too loud to ignore. You start noticing things you used to overlook without effort. Small behaviors in people, changes in tone, patterns in conversations that repeat more than you want to admit. And instead of feeling enlightened, you feel unsettled, as if something beneath your reality has shifted. This is the phase no one really talks about, where clarity and discomfort arrive together. You replay conversations in your head, questioning what was said and what was meant. And suddenly, your own thoughts feel heavier, like they carry meanings you never noticed before. You wonder if you are overthinking, but something in you knows you are simply seeing more. And that realization creates a strange tension between awareness and emotional exhaustion. You are not breaking down, you are just adjusting to a clearer lens on everything around you. And that adjustment feels uncomfortable because ignorance used to feel like peace. But now you can't go back, because seeing clearly always changes how it feels to live inside your own mind. And that is where discomfort truly begins. People don't really change in the way you assume they do. What changes is the clarity of what you are finally noticing. You start seeing patterns in how people repeat themselves, even when words differ. And suddenly, what once felt unpredictable begins to feel strangely consistent. It is not that they have become different, it is that your perception has sharpened. You notice tone shifts, repeated habits, and emotional patterns you once ignored completely. This creates a quiet social disillusionment, not because people are worse, but because you are seeing more. And once you start seeing through this filter, you begin questioning what else you have missed before. It is a wake-up call that does not change others, only your understanding of them. And that shift can feel uncomfortable, because clarity always replaces certainty with observation. But it also reveals something important: you were never seeing them fully before. So the real question becomes, what else in your life is still filtered? Because once awareness expands, you stop reacting to people and start observing them, almost like you are finally reading a book you thought you already knew by heart. That realization quietly changes everything about human connection itself now. The strange part about awareness is that it doesn't just change how you see others, it changes how close you feel to them. You can be surrounded by people and still feel a quiet distance forming, not because they moved away, but because you started noticing things you can't ignore anymore. Small patterns, repeated behaviors, emotional inconsistencies that once blended into normal life now stand out clearly. And that clarity creates a kind of isolation that is hard to explain. It is not loneliness in the traditional sense, it is the feeling of being slightly out of sync with what others still accept without question. You are not missing out on connection, you are simply noticing more layers within it. And that awareness can feel heavy, because it removes the comfort of unexamined interactions. But this feeling has a purpose, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. It is reshaping how you relate, not by cutting you off, but by refining what feels real and what no longer does. And as this shift continues, you begin to understand that distance is not always separation, sometimes it is simply clarity arriving faster than comfort can follow you didn't expect yet. The most unsettling moment of awareness is when you start questioning your own history. not in a dramatic way, but in small, quiet thoughts like, who was I before this? You look back at decisions you once made with certainty and suddenly they feel foreign, almost as if someone else made them. But the truth is not that you changed overnight, it's that your awareness stepped closer to those memories and started examining them with new eyes. And when perception shifts like that, identity begins to feel less solid, more like a collection of versions of yourself that no longer fully align. You notice habits you used to defend, beliefs you never questioned, patterns you repeated without awareness. This is where ego starts to soften, not through force, but through observation. And as that happens, the idea of a fixed you begins to dissolve into something more fluid, more uncertain, yet more honest. It can feel like a collapse, but it is really a reorganization of understanding. Because you are not losing yourself, you are simply realizing you were never just one version of you to begin with, and that realization quietly reshapes everything you thought was stable about your identity. After everything, the confusion was never the real problem. Awareness was never the enemy. The discomfort, the overthinking, the shifting perception, it all came from one thing: resistance to what you were already seeing. You tried to hold on to the older version of meaning, the one where things felt simpler, more automatic, less questioned. But awareness doesn't allow you to fully return to that state once it has expanded. And the more you fight what you notice, the heavier everything feels. But when you stop treating awareness like a mistake, something quiet changes. The same thoughts are still there, the same patterns still exist, but they no longer control your emotional reaction in the same way. You begin to see instead of struggle, observe instead of resist. And that shift creates space to understand without collapsing under what you understand. Because awareness was never meant to harm you, it was meant to refine you. The real shift is not in what you see, but in how willing you are to stay present with it. And in that acceptance, the tension slowly dissolves. What remains is clarity, not comfort, and a deeper kind of stability that comes from no longer fighting what has already been revealed within you all along.